This is Ed, and that's a picture that you're looking at of Rio de Janeiro, and that's sunrise. And this, I'll get out of the way. This is Copacabana Beach. Most of those are hotels and condos, uh, and there's a lot of beach stuff associated with the beach, of course, right across the street. And it's a really busy area, always been that way, apparently. I produce meetings in Brazil, in Rio and Sao Paulo, from well, starting in 2008, one a year, and all the way up to around 14 or 15, and then my competition came in, and so I backed out. And so here I am. Maybe we'll do it again, though. Okay, I'm having people request to join. Pardon me as I'm showing you my ineptitude here, trying to manage this. Okay. We're expecting Norm Vargas, who's in Panama, uh, to join us, and maybe he will. And if not, Ken, this is going to be you and me, and we'll make it fast. Okay, so I just did a blast on LinkedIn. Maybe you saw it about a half hour ago, 40 minutes, and it went out to 600,000 people. That's my core audience out of the 1.4 million in the total reach that we have. But uh, and so I thought we might be surprised and be inundated with people who want to listen to us. But in any case, they'll see this finished product in the next day or so. So did you click on that link I sent you as part of this? It showed your front cover and some media tips.
Actually, I was on a phone call right up to the start of this, so
Oh,
I did
okay,
not get
good.
a chance. I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right. So this topic today is going to be about speaking, public speaking, and how not to be afraid of this little green light on Zoom on the camera here. The camera can be your best friend if you use it right, and if you don't, goodbye. So this is all about media prep, you might have guessed, and someday you'll join me in a live meeting somewhere, whether it's in LA or San Diego or maybe even Rio de Janeiro. But meanwhile, we're going to zoom around. And welcome, Ken Lloyd. Uh, thank you for being a member of Global Press Club. And you have been on umpteen shows. My God, I'll do a count, but I don't have that number handy right now. It's probably over 50 programs, and there's more to go. And we'll try to make them interesting and useful for your purpose as an author. So tell us about this hot new book. It's the second of a series published by Wiley, well-known business publisher. And you can hold up the cover if you wish, and then talk about the contents.
Sure. A quick hold of the cover. Yep. Maybe in focus would be easier. Let's see here.
Yeah, okay. So the title is Performance Appraise.
Appraisals and phrases for dummies.
There we
Uh,
go.
and you're right. It's a new edition. 15 years ago, I had done a performance appraisals and phrases for dummies book for Wiley Publishing. And they had come back to me last year and said, would you do a new, oh, it's much better. Would you do a new edition of the book? And I said, of course, because so much has changed in performance appraisals over the past 15 years.
No,
Um,
I can't see it. Okay.
yep.
I'm on
Yeah,
page 166, 167, and I just opened to this, and about performance appraisals. Okay. So this page, the headline is problem solving. And the subhead, the first one is exceptional, consistently exceeds expectations. So in other words, this is like critique. And then the next one is Okay, that was exceptional. And now the next one is excellent, frequently exceeds expectations. So these are performance appraisals, right?
Right. The book has the kind of the opening sections and chapters deal with the newest developments in performance appraisals. This whole notion of the once a year and basically generating anxiety for managers and for their employees and giving this intermittent type feedback, often out of date, often missing key accuracy points, tainted by all kinds of internal and external problems. It's all gone. The newer approach is what's called continuous feedback, which is regular meetings between employees and their managers. It includes much more of a forward focus, a focus on employee growth, development, learning, advancement, upskilling. There's far more two-way communication, bona fide communication throughout the process. So there are still appraisals, but not once a year. The formal appraisals these days are either twice a year or even quarterly, aligning more with the operations of the business. And they're not focused on ancient events, points that people might not remember. Rather, the feedback and what we call feed forward, which is really looking at growth and development, is provided more frequently and based on individual performance and meeting of goals along the way during the process. The section that Ed opened, the book also includes over 3,300 phrases for managers, those who are doing the appraisals, to look at, consider when they're looking at various aspects of employee performance, and giving them some thoughts. Here are some possible phrases you may want to use, incorporate, or adjust in providing the feedback. And they take virtually every aspect of employee performance, whether it's quality of work, quantity, collaboration, communication, and basically you'll have phrases ranging from absolutely exceptional all the way to needs improvement. And it's a 5-point schedule, a 5-point rating range, which is quite common out there for evals. And it gives you phrases for exceptional, for excellent, for satisfactory, all the way down to needing improvement.
This program, audience out there, this program is focusing in on media prep. Now, as you just witnessed, Ken was not reading those words. It was within him. He lives it, loves it, breathes what he was talking about, and is an expert. Ken Lloyd, Dr. Ken Lloyd has a PhD in organizational development and other related things. And why don't you tell the audience about your PhD, the official title of it, and how it helped you become a better public speaker?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I received my PhD from UCLA, which is now the Anderson School of Management. And the focus was on what, as Ed said, organizational development, organizational behavior, and even human resources. It really covered people at work kinds of issues. I've always been interested in employee behavior and in company actions and reactions in dealing with employees to make the work experience as positive and productive for everybody, certainly for the organization, but for each individual, for the various teams. And this program really focused on that. It was a combination of business classes, psychology classes, sociology classes, and even a touch of anthropology to really look at how humans behave in organizations. And then importantly, what can we do to help make the entire interrelationship between employees and the organizations where they work more satisfying, more productive, more rewarding, more meaningful. So that was really the focus of it. And a terrific program, enjoyed being at the school, did a lot of teaching when I was there, and continued teaching part-time at the Anderson School over the years after I graduated. And Ed talks about public speaking. Teaching is just one way in which to help build your public speaking skills, your confidence, your comfort in addressing groups of people, along with other factors. But certainly the teaching experience helped along the way.
Okay, audience. Now, this show, once again, is about media prep and how to use Zoom. you can transfer the same skills to a teaching situation in a classroom, in person, or when speaking to an auditorium with hundreds of people. This is the global meeting room, quote unquote, bringing people into the Zoom room. Look at this beautiful picture. Look at me holding my hands. See, they're visible rather than invisible. Where are my hands? Now, I'm not being critical to you, Ken, but I've learned that by using your hands, by displaying your hands, you connect better with the audience out there. Now, it's not waving them around like a madman, but it's like controlled. That kind of type. Don't wave them. Type. And I'm not wearing a tie or a coat today because I'm at the beach in Rio, theoretically. But I'm using that picture because we have can be a difficult topic for a lot of people. And I want it to be soothing. So I use this picture rather than my San Diego nighttime skyline with all the bright lights, which can be off-putting and confusing for some people in a difficult speaking role situation here that we're trying to communicate about. So I've asked Ken very specific questions about his work and about his preparation in schooling. He was also a business executive, uh, top of the heap, if you will, in a very large company for more than 18 years. Now tell us about that role.
Yeah, that role, I was the title was VP of Employee Planning and Development. It was for one of the largest manufacturers of medical apparel and medical footwear in the world. They were a client of mine years ago, 20 years ago, and I enjoyed working with them immensely. There was a point where the president of the company said, president founder said, "Do you ever think about joining a client?" And I said, "I really hadn't, but let's talk about it." It just sounded interesting, where I could be, if you will, an internal consultant, do all the consulting kinds of activities that I enjoy, work with a team that I really know and respect, and actually maybe have a greater impact on the organization and on individual lives. Sometimes as a consultant, you'll go in and you'll do some work, and then the follow-up, the growth and development and additional kinds of ways you'd like to help them might not be there as they continue. So I took the position and sort of let's see how this works. And 18 years later, it worked. It worked quite well. It was a very enjoyable work experience. I continued my writing. I'd written some business books along the way while working there, and they were very much supportive of that. They thought that would be great, but I didn't do it on company time. I'm a night owl anyhow, so did a lot of it on nights and weekends, and really enjoyed the process. But it was really giving me an opportunity to apply the kinds of, if you will, theories and techniques and practices and approaches that I had studied and applied intermittently on a consulting basis to a more ongoing basis. So it was personally satisfying in that sense as well. They're a terrific company.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I want the audience to know and trust you and your experience. So let's talk about media again and just move along down the pathway here, down the beach walk and enjoy that sun. Notice it hasn't moved much, but anyway, trust me, it gets higher and hotter during the day. So let's talk about public speaking, Ken. And you could be in a classroom, that's public speaking. How do you own the room? Okay, so I own this room by choosing the picture and the shirt. And I comb my hair. So got to be comfortable because people are staring at me, right? And so how do I, well, boy, did you just hear that noise? I guess it's just in my ears. So I have the security thing on, and every time there's a threat, according to Avast, the security people, they give me a bell in my head. And so I'm glad you didn't hear that. But boy, it shook me up. So this is one of the chapters in media prep when suddenly someone or something interrupts your pattern and you can forget what the heck you're talking about. And so how do you explain to the audience so that they don't walk out on you because of that? Well, just like I did. It's like, whoa, did you hear that? And like, no, it's in my head. How can you hear that? So I explain what it is. And that kind of an interruption turned into a positive, hopefully, is engaging the audience. And if somebody interrupts you when you're speaking, the same kind of thing can happen. So you have to be prepared with a nasty question. If a nasty question comes at you or a terrible comment or something funny happens in the audience, and how do you respond? Well, you enjoy it, get into it. And then you get back on track by redirecting the conversation. And you notice how I'm looking at the camera. Of course, you can't tell that, but I'm staring at that camera. And while still staring at that ocean coming in, the tide is coming in, but it hasn't moved much, has it? But that's a still. Someday, I guess a video might work. Norman has arrived from Panama. Wow. How about that? Okay, so we're going to welcome Norm Vargas, who's with Premier Destination Services. Hi, Norm.
Hi. Hi, I'm sorry I'm late.
That's all right. I've been here on the beach in Rio, Copacabana.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah.
Lived there for 2 years.
Yeah, right there in LeBron or in Copacabana?
No, actually, I was behind that in Alagoa Rodrigo Freitas.
Yeah, I don't know that area, but I produced a couple of meetings with Ernst & Young hosting me, and they were on the top floor of the Coca-Cola building.
That was in
Yeah,
that
Sugarloaf
area is
area.
called,
Yeah.
that area is called God.
Well, I don't know. I couldn't pronounce it anyway.
Flamengo. I think
Oh,
it's
Flamingo, yeah. Yeah, it's the downtown
Flamengo.
business area, and it overlooks that beautiful Sugarloaf mountain. So
Actually, the bus, the metro station under the Coca-Cola building is called the Coca-Cola station.
how about that?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great.
called the Coca-Cola
So
station.
we were just talking about Ken's book, Performance Appraisals and Phrases for Dummies. Now, we're not dummies, but a lot of people are afraid of performance appraisals. And Ken was explaining about the methods. And this is all about media. So I'm putting a question that Ken did not know was coming. I'm putting a question to him, but he smiles and he looks very professional. And that is exactly how to respond. Audience, watch Ken respond. Ken, please take it from here.
Yeah, you had asked about, did you use the expression, something like owning the room or whatever? I approach these discussions, whether virtual or in person, as an exchange, as two-way communication. Try to be as open, receptive, and engaging as possible, and not to do that as an act, but to be yourself, to be authentic, to be genuine, and to truly listen to what's going on, to be prepared, and to be aware, as you had said, of every gesture that you make. Because even you had mentioned using your hands. Your hands communicate all kinds of messages, even more so, I think, in an online kind of discussion, because it can show you're thinking about it, you're covering up, you're hiding something, maybe a little skeptical when your hand is here. Up here, you're a little too excited, maybe. As you said, maybe some control, just to be aware. I remember the very first time I was on a TV talk show, one of these morning news programs, and I'm just sitting there in my chair doing this. I'm real comfortable and moving around. And afterwards, one of the directors said, "Stop moving in the chair. That's all the people see. They stop focusing on what you're saying. Anything that you do that's a distraction I'm emphasizing with my hand, but anything that you do that's a distraction is going to take away from the messages that you're trying to send. And so you want to really be aware of that. You want to use active listening and engaging. And if someone, and it's a two-way kind of discussion, if someone brings up a question you don't like, that's fine. That's the purpose of this. Maybe you didn't expect it. Let's talk. Let's really see if we can learn from it and build from there. And to me, what can detract is, for example, putting up a visual and then reading it. Your audience can read. You don't need to read every bullet point word for word. Let's talk about that. You see, the first bullet point deals with two-way communication. I put that in there because I thought it'd be interesting. And you can even solicit employee comments, or if you will, listener comments or viewer comments. What do you think? And then either they'll come in through the chat or they'll even actively participate, depending on how the meeting is set up. But if we're trying to make the real value out of these virtual sessions at the highest level, we really want them to be an exchange and to be open and to be engaging, and not some stuffy, drawn out lecture that just bores people.
And in a monotone.
Yeah,
Don't
absolutely.
use a monotone.
Yeah.
Be expressive.
Yeah, animation helps. So we know in the sales process, the idea of mirroring your customers helps build trust, which is, if they're talking kind of fast, you should be talking a little bit faster too, because then they think we have something in common. And people like to build trust and have trust with people with whom they share various aspects. And if they're talking slowly, you want to slow it down. When you're in these kinds of situations where you don't really know, just as you said, be animated, be engaging, be honest, and be as receptive as possible to whatever may be going on. Your honesty showed when you got that loud noise. You didn't just dismiss it, you didn't go shock. You leveled with the audience, with those around you, and said, I don't know if you heard that, I just heard this, and here's what, that's just being honest. So opportunities to show honesty, I think, are very important as well.
Norm, do you think my hands are too big? But they look giant, don't they? Look at that. Wow. I didn't put them down. Think about that self-consciousness when you're on camera. What are people looking at? Well,
and it's very interesting because when you take those courses, the media courses with journalists that tell you how to behave in front of a camera and what to do and what not to do, where to look at, how to dress, and how to address people, you become a whole other person. You have to become a whole other person somehow without losing your mojo, right? Because you always need to put in a little bit of yourself, but then there is a script, there are prompts, the way that you sit, if you cross your legs, if you don't cross your legs, if you move your hands, if you address the person that you're talking to, if you address the camera, and now in this virtual world is something that I've put into use a lot, because it's a courtesy towards the people that you're with, and then towards the people that is on the other side of the camera, because you don't, and as Ken just said, you don't want to read the prompt and not put a little bit of you in it, or read the presentation, because again, the audience can read. You have that as a reference for them to see it, and then you elaborate on the content. You tell a story, because that's what most often than not, that's what it is. You tell a story when you're in front of a camera, and yes, you do stick to a script, but it's very interesting, the whole production and the pre-work that you have to do before doing one of these things.
Yeah, Norm, we have heard everything you said, and it's recorded in the chat down below as well. But you're breaking up, and I don't know whether it's the headset or just the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But no, we heard everything that you said. It was just a lot of cracking, which means that it's not a strong audio. But visual, you look great. So,
Thank you.
so, so tell me, when you are speaking publicly, and publicly would mean, well, whether you're in a client presentation, that's public for that room, or when you're doing a counseling with a corporate client or a transferee or an employee, you are performing, you're doing your thing. So how much of that requires you to prepare your remarks in advance, almost like not scripting, but knowing what you want to say and be sure you're going to say it, and then what do you want to have happen from
Yeah.
those words, that performance,
Yes.
if you will.
Yes. Yes. It's every interaction, whether it is inside the company or outside the company, it's a production. You have to prepare in every sense
Yeah.
of the word. You have to prepare what you're going to say. You have to have your message track and what is that you want to deliver and what the outcomes of that presentation are you want to accomplish. So preparedness is everything. Preparedness is everything. Being ready, having your notes, and then be ready for questions that may come up and have an answer, or even if you don't have it, be ready to give it to them. So to me, every presentation is a whole production. The hair and the clothes and everything that you put out there, because at that point you represented the company, and the perception that they get of you in that presentation, whether it is internal or external, is the impression that they're going to take from the company. So we don't want to be loud in the way that we talk. We don't want to be loud in the way that we dress. We don't want to be loud in the way that we address topics, or we don't want to interrupt or talk over people. We want everybody to have a chance to share, to present, and to ask questions. And we need to listen attentively and be present at the moment. So to me, bottom line is preparedness. Be ready in every sense of the word. Whether that's how I see it. And I don't know, Ken, if you agree with me.
Ken?
Oh, absolutely agree. Preparation is critical as part of it. I like to get the idea, and I know Norm alluded to this, but what are the key takeaways that I want the people with whom I'm interacting to take with them after our discussion? And can I articulate those? Not in a vague sense, but here are the kind of like the 5 key things I'd like them to go away with, an understanding of this or recognizing that, but what are some of the real key takeaways that I want? And as part of the preparation process, my dad used to always talk about, before you go into a meeting, play the what if game. And the what if game is, what are the worst questions, the toughest? What if they ask about this? What if they ask about that? What are you going to say? And to be honest and certainly transparent and open in your response. And it's all part of what Norm is saying as the preparation process. And if we take those kinds of approaches, we're going to be able to communicate that much more effectively, persuasively, and compellingly to get our message across. And if we don't know the answer, don't deliver a word salad, don't talk around it. Let me check on that. I will get back to you. That's a great question. And not to be afraid of that. And saying I don't know doesn't show that, oh my God, you're incompetent. It shows you're being honest and that you are truly committed to communicating accurately and truthfully with whomever you're working with.
For sure. And that also shows that you are humble enough to admit that you don't know, and shows vulnerability, and shows that you're committed to doing things correctly before saying something that you may hit it out of the park, and instead you would say, great question, let me take it with me and I'll get back to you. I think that showing that vulnerability is very important because people would see that you're approachable. People would see your willingness to help, your willingness to share, and your willingness to be there, and that you're there because you want to be there, because you want to share your story, you want to share your experience, you want to spread the knowledge, and not because you have to.
Norm, we'll get into what I'm about to say deeper off camera. I'm developing a plan, and I need your advice. I'm developing a plan that would involve me coming into South Florida, Fort Lauderdale area, and put on a live meeting with a video component as well, hybrid meeting. And I'm looking for sponsors, I'm looking for partners. And I would love to have, your company be involved in that production. We could make it exclusive for Premier DS, or we can open it up to others, such as LARM. But uh, so it's early. I'm looking at April 1 as a date. But I don't have a venue, I don't have a financial partner yet. And so I did have a great conversation with the managing partner of the law and tax firm called Vialto, which is a spinoff of PwC. And she's in Miami Beach, and she'd be very willing to be on the faculty. Just so you know. And Philip Berry, who's been one of our speakers, and he's on my board, he's living in Fort Lauderdale now. And so he'll be a speaker. And Mike Nolly is with Geo Blue, a big insurance company, and he lives in Fort Lauderdale area. And so he will very likely become one of the partners. So I wanted to get back to you on that topic, and I'm using this public position to of course promote it, being I'm a public speaker and this is how to do it. And so tell me about Premier DS. How many people do you have now? I know you're just everywhere. Boy, it's great.
Yeah, well, we have our full timers. We're almost 40 people now,
Wow.
and we have full timers in Florida, where Rita sits. Rita Hernandez sits in Florida. Then we have a large team in Mexico, because Mexico is our biggest market. Then we also have team members in Peru, Chile, Brazil, and Colombia.
Yeah. Once again, you're breaking up sound wise. It's, we hear you, of course, but it's breaking up. Just so you know, there's something in your connection. I think it's probably the microphone.
I think this headset, this headset is too well. I need to get a new one.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on and talk about the relocation industry, mobility industry. It's just trucking along for you guys, but there's several others who are having problems, and they are worried about the slowdown. Are you feeling that? Are you seeing that?
Well, the industry as a whole is seeing it, because companies are working a lot in their mobility programs and their expat moves and how they want to develop people. And I was actually reading an article the other day about what it means now with the virtual world, if it's necessary for somebody to do a role on location when it can be done in, virtually. But they were also, the article also talked about the need to experience firsthand in the location to fully understand and to fully develop your expertise in that specific location, in that specific market. So it's now a gamble, you know, what companies want to see and what companies want to accomplish and what strategy they will follow to accomplish that. So at this point, the market, there's work for everyone. That's my point. There's work for everyone. There is something going on domestically in the United States with all the interest rates and the home sale and the home purchase processes in the US. However, internationally, we're busy. We're busy as can be.
Yeah, that's interesting. Ken, back to your book, and I just opened to a page as we come to a close here in the next 5 or 6 minutes. Page 334, you have a chapter, the last chapter, called Thinking Creatively. And it's probably 500 words there and 3 big paragraphs. So you write, and I'll be brief here, when employees come up with creative ideas related to their established roles and beyond, they're also creating additional value for the company as they extend their thinking about work beyond the standard and traditional approaches and topics. Do you want to take it from there? And this is the last paragraph in the book before the index. And so please tell us about this little chapter and why you put that there.
Yeah, this is actually, the chapter is the top 10. This is something that the Wiley folks like in their dummies books. The top 10 behaviors meriting special recognition. They wanted key top behaviors that as managers we look at in our employees to single out for additional recognition. One of them is thinking creativity, acting honestly. I'm just looking at it, communicating effectively, collaborating with others. It's 10 key behaviors. So wrapped it up with thinking creatively, because it's kind of a go forward topic where we're thinking creatively, not about the past, about the future. What can be done? What can we do? What can our organization do? What can be done by our team? And for managers to recognize that. Some managers look at thinking creatively as being, hey, you know, you're rocking the boat. You're stick with your job, stick with your responsibilities, focus on this, instead of, you know, we want to hear your thoughts. We want your new ideas. We want to recognize them and encourage you to continue doing that and thinking that way. So the idea was to really recognize, reinforce, and reward that kind of behavior, along with others in that so-called category of top 10 behaviors. But one is thinking creatively, forward-looking, and getting outside the box in every respect and thinking beyond the standard. Here are the 8 responsibilities of your job. It's far more than that. And people enjoy that too. It's very motivational for employees to be able to come up with some new ideas and have them recognized and maybe even implemented. But even recognize, hey, keep it up. This is a great idea. Or this idea could use some more shaping. Let's talk about it. It just opens up that whole manager, or if you will, leader employee relationship as well. So it's one among 10 that's right at the end of the book for managers to keep in mind as they're looking for other additional areas to provide some additional creative feedback and feed forward to their employees, to their team.
Thank you for that. And I thank you for being on so many of our programs. It's making my job a lot easier.
Thank you. Always enjoy the very interesting and such informative people that join the group, like Norman today and you yourself, Ed. It's just a pleasure to widen my own network and work with such interesting people. So I thank you.
Thank you. All right. Norm, thanks for being on the program. I
You're
value
welcome.
your view, and we'll talk soon. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you again
you.
on Global TV.
Thanks again. Take
Have a
care
good
and be
one.
well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.